Hey, this is Matt. In this video, we're going to be covering the Fast Drive Football Google Scoresheet. Al Wilson was kind enough to allow me to share this project with the Fast Drive Football community, which I have done in a few places. You can find the Google Sheet on the Fast Drive Football community page, as well as their Facebook group. I'll put links to both of those websites in the description. Before we get started, I do need to take a second to thank Jim Reddy from the Tabletop Sports community. Jim tested this Google Scoresheet extensively and provided invaluable feedback. I should probably also thank his wife, who had to keep reminding him that he had actual work to do, so thanks to Jim and his gal. Okay, so you can see on screen, this is the first tab of the Google Scoresheet, the instructions tab. There's a few disclaimers in here. Obviously, this Scoresheet's based on Al Wilson's Fast Drive Football game. So he owns all the rights to this. You can find his game and all of its components by visiting fastdrivefootball.com, so you can see all that stuff here. So I'll cover a couple of these that I feel important to say. First, probably the biggest one is currently the spreadsheet does not cover the enhanced team cards. It is something I want to add in the future, but right now there is no functionality for those. So if you're going to use the Google Scoresheet, I would also, and you're using an enhanced team cards, I would also just keep those handy. The other thing is there's an instruction document linked here, which I won't open, but you guys can open that on your time, and it actually kind of goes through this entire process. Basically what I'm going to be covering, you can get off of the Word document, but I'm doing this video just as a visual. So that's pretty much it on the disclaimer tab. The template, here's the template itself. Before you actually start a game, I would strongly recommend that you right click and duplicate this, and then rename it to whatever you want. I'm not going to rename it for the purpose of this video, just so that you don't, when you start changing the links in here, you don't lose, obviously when you start typing, there's some functionality with this, so when you start typing over what's actually here, you'll lose it. So that's why I included this big notice at the top that says don't edit the template without copying, because you'll have to just re-download the template again, which I guess wouldn't be the end of the world, but save yourself some time having to do all that by just right-clicking and duplicating. Okay, so my plan with this video is to just go through each of the sections that's in the Google Scoresheet, and then I'll walk you through a few drives just to show you how to use it. The first thing to note on this sheet is it supports both pro team and college era teams. You can choose those by hitting this drop down box up here at the top, and so when you do that, you'll notice that a lot of this data at the top will change. It's asking you for other information, and so the very first thing that you should do, and the instruction document walks you through this too, I'm kind of going through it step by step. So choose your level and era. That does a few things. Obviously, you noticed when I switched from pro team to college, this data up here at the top kind of changed at the top of all the cards. There is some other functionality that's behind the scenes. For example, in the regular Fast Drive Football score sheets, there were tick boxes, right? And for the various college eras, there were different numbers of tick boxes, and so this drop-down box also automates the amount of ticks that come off the clock. I'll cover that in a second. The amount of ticks that are in a quarter based on the era you chose, and so that's all done in the background. The other thing that it does, and we'll get to more of this later, but when you switch to pro or pro, the overtime, obviously the overtime periods are different for pro and college. And within college, they're also different for certain eras. And so when you choose any of the college eras that used timing based overtimes, you'll see, just the normal timing based overtime that you would also get for pro. But if you switch to an era that used possession based overtimes, you'll get this additional column over here on the left that basically just outlines each of the overtimes. And so that's kind of also something that's built into this era automation. The other thing is when you switch from from pro to college, you'll also get the addition of the SRS and star ratings, which I'll get to more in a second. The star ratings are automated as well. And so when you put in the SRS for both of the teams that you're playing, it automatically calculates what that star rating is. I'll do that really fast. Well, I'll do that in a second. You'll see that in a second. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is choose your level and era. And then at that point, you're ready to start inputting the team information. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use, let me find it here. I'm going to use, I think I might have closed it. That's sad. Oh, here it is. I have it off screen. I'm going to use the two teams that were included in the pro football instructional document, which was the 2021 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 2021 Indianapolis Colts. So just as a way of showing you how this works. So just, again, make sure you're in your copy before you start messing around with this. And so what I'm going to do is, start inputting all the information in this Google Sheet for the teams that I'm playing. Pittsburgh, so we'll do that. Their win-loss record was 9-7-1. And then we're going to enter in AFC North. So again, this is what I mean by doing the copy. When I clicked over this, I lost all the functionality that was in here. Changing back and forth from pro to college doesn't work anymore, and so that's why I stress that you copy it. Looks like there's a formatting issue with this. So anyway, and then 2021 Indianapolis. Hopefully Indianapolis. I'm sorry for you people that live in Indiana. I just spelled your state wrong. 9-8 and AFC South. Okay, so the top portions of the team cards are done. Now you have to actually go through, and you'll notice these drop-down boxes now include all of the keywords or attributes for all the teams. And so if you have the printed versions of the cards or the PDF versions of the cards, you will add those here. Offense is the only one that has a drop-down box because it also includes the custom, well, I don't even know what these are called, I guess, the P plus, the R, and the R plus, the timing or the scoring descriptions, I guess. So you can choose those here. Neither one of these actually looks like Pittsburgh did. So there's one for Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh was also efficient. While I have this open, I'll show this. Google Sheets doesn't allow in drop-down boxes for underlining, and so in order to handle that case, I added the U. So if your team is, what is it, double efficient or something, it's underlined, you can actually just put the U in there. But you'll notice there's the regular versions and the semi-qualities, and so you'll go down through and choose each one of them for your teams. And so Pittsburgh was efficient. They had a punishing defense and an undisciplined defense. So the rest of these will just be left blank. I won't choose anything in there. They had no kick return or punt return. And then in here, I'm just going to put 62 and 63. So that's how you fill out this card. The other cards the same. Indianapolis had a semi-prolific offense, a disciplined offense, and an inefficient offense. I am a Colts fan, and so this was definitely a inefficient year for the Colts. So 56 and 65. So now you've got your team set up. A couple of other things. The box score is fully automated, and that pulls from the drive summary below, which we'll get to in a second. So now that you've got your teams set up, your next step is going to be to start playing your game. So we'll cover this. The dice roll portion of this spreadsheet is completely optional. You do not have to use it. There is no functionality within the dice and the rest of the sheet. It just rolls dice when you click the button. So you can use it or not use it. Google has, I hate some of these formatting issues that you get with copying sheets. You'll have to mess around with some of this. One of the things that I don't like about Google Sheets is there's no way to disable the automatic calculation for certain functions like ran between, and so as you make changes anywhere else in the spreadsheet, obviously these will recalculate. So just be prepared for that. It doesn't really hurt anything with Fast Drive Football because technically when you read your dice results, you're reading the 4 drive results, and then you may or may not need the rest of the other dice rolls that are in here. And so the fact that you're in here typing in stuff and these columns in the dice are automatically recalculating isn't a big deal. Just be aware that it's going to recalculate. If you don't want it to recalculate or you don't want to see that, just uncheck the box. Checking the box and unchecking the box just clears all the boxes. Okay, so you'll also notice the decider die is working. Having a blank die was not something I wanted to do, so I just left a circle with no fill in it. Hopefully that's self-explanatory. So that covers the dice rolling portion of it. The clock is also completely automated, and the clock counts based on the ticks that are put in down here. So we'll get to that as we start playing a game. But just preliminarily, when you roll your timing die and you get your results, so the timing die chart's here. So I rolled a 4, and so for this particular drive I would enter in 2 in the ticks. You can see that it automatically adds the ticks in the score sheet itself, and then based on the time for each tick that came from the rules, it counts down the clock. And like I said at the beginning, when you choose the level and era, the amount of time that comes off per tick is different, and that is based on the era that you chose. And so you can find all that information in the rules document. I won't go over a whole lot of that here, but just know that all you have to do is enter in the tick value, and the clock will automatically count down. The other thing to point out is this drive time section also has a little parentheses in it where it counts down the total number of ticks for the quarter, and this is dependent on your era. So for example, the pro team era used 12 ticks per quarter. If I switch to college, it goes up to 15 ticks per quarter, and it'll count down the same way. And then I think the other 2 eras also had difference. 68 to 95 also used 12 ticks, but then pre-68 used 9 ticks, and so the value per tick is different. It didn't work the way that's because I put in an X. So there you go. 1 tick in the pre-68 era was worth 1 minute and 40 seconds. If I switch this to the pro team era, 1 minute and 15 seconds, and then I think the other 2 have 1 minute 15 seconds, and then post 1995 1 minute, because it was a 15 tick score sheet. So you can see that that's automated. Let's go back to pro. Excuse me. So this is how the clock works. Ignore the little mini text that's here. I'm just using this to do calculations. So I didn't want to hide it or make the text something white because I didn't want anybody to not know the text was there and then override it, with any personal changes to the sheet. So I just left it. Okay, that is the rundown of the basic. Let me make sure there isn't anything else I need to cover. I covered the auto calculating stuff. I needed to point that out. The tick box, tick column also supports the 7-minute drive and the long drive optional rules that are in the rules documents. If you put in a 6, you'll see that it just adds additional X's in here, which this time box actually calculates time per the number of ticks or X's that show up in these columns, and so you can drop your 6 in here for those 2 optional rules, and that works. So there's that. I think I've covered all the stuff I wanted to cover for the Google Sheet itself. So let's go ahead and I'm scrolling down through my how-to document just to make sure that I have everything in here that I want to cover before we get started. So it looks like I got everything. Okay, so let's go ahead and start playing a game. Usually what I do is based on your monitor size, you can reduce the zoom so that you can see most of this. And so I'll just usually I put it down based on my monitor size. You can come up here in the percentage box and change what that percentage is. And then you can hide some of these, like I'll hide these top 2 rows. And then I usually like to freeze this row 25, so that I can still see all of this data at the top and still see the score sheet as I go down. So if you click on, I'm just assuming you don't know anything about Google Sheets, so we'll just do this. If you click on the row you want to freeze and then go up to view, and then you can hover down on freeze and then just say up to row 25 or whatever row you've selected. And now when you scroll, you can see it scrolls through this part that's here and just freezes the stuff at the top. So that's handy. That's usually how I handle playing this on a single monitor. Obviously you can reduce the scale a lot more than this if you want to, but generally 75% or 80% works for the monitor size that I'm using. All right, so excuse me, let's start a game. I won't go through the whole thing. I'm just going to go through a few drives just so that you guys can see how the spreadsheet works, and then that's pretty much good for this video. So we'll start by, I'm just going to assume that Pittsburgh won the toss and they elected to receive. So we'll start by rolling the dice. 156. I don't have my chart out, so we're not going to worry about any of that stuff. But the first thing you would do after you roll the dice and read the scorebook is you would, obviously you're checking for a kickoff. We're going to assume that Indianapolis kicked off to Pittsburgh. This drop down box here is based on the 2 teams that you put up in the cards, so you'll only see those there. And then the field position, choose your field position, poor, average, or great. Those are color coded, for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter. They don't really do anything. It just, obviously, if it's poor, you're going to get a orange or red. So we're going to say average, and then you would roll the dice and do all your game book stuff, and you would put in your number of ticks that came off the clock, and then the drive summary is whatever you want to put in here. It doesn't matter. We will assume that Pittsburgh scored a touchdown. We'll just say that. And then this is kind of important. You can put whatever you want to in this box, but if you put in numeric values, this is what causes the box score itself to update. And so the tabletop version of Fast Drive Football, in the example, had you putting in the winner, the home team, visiting team score. Don't do that here, obviously, because I'm auto-calculating the score up here. So just put what the resulting score of the drive was, if there's one existed. If, for example, on Indianapolis's subsequent drive, they were forced to punt, you would just put in here, Indianapolis forced to punt. I usually use the keywords. I'll capitalize them just so that I can see them, but it's neither here nor there. And then you can put text in this box if you choose. It doesn't affect the score at all, so go ahead and do that if you want to. Here's another example. Let's say Pittsburgh started the next drive in poor field position, and they had 4 ticks off the clock. You can see obviously the clock is running down. We're at 3:45 left in the quarter, and we're gonna say this was actually in this one. I'm just gonna do this because PAT good. So there's that, and then we'll say missed field goal. I'm just going to leave it blank at that point, but there it is. So you can leave them blank as well. But one of the things I did want to cover, though, is it happens frequently, just about every game, is a drive will go over from one quarter to the next. And so in order to handle that, make sure that the game clock will read 0, so you have enough ticks. There are 3 ticks left in this. So we're going to say that Indianapolis had a drive that started an average field position. We've got 3 ticks left. Let's assume that Indianapolis had a 4-tick drive. So what we will do is we'll enter in 3 to get the clock down to 0, and we'll say end of quarter here, or whatever you want to say. And then the next thing you're going to do is change the quarter box to the next quarter. I'm going to uncheck these so they don't keep redoing. Move the quarter box to 2, and then come down here to the bottom and basically do all this again. So 21 Colts, they started an average field position, and then the rest of the drive you put in here. So if it was a 4-tick drive, you'll put enough ticks to get down to 0 in the quarter before, and then the last tick in the next quarter. And then in here you would say touchdown pass, PAT good, and here's your 7. So obviously we've split this drive in half, and the drive actually finished in the second quarter, and the reason for doing this is for the time and for the score. Although the drive was 5 minutes long, 3 minutes and 45 seconds of it was in the first quarter, and the other minute 15 was in the second quarter, and this is where the score came from. So that's how you handle jumping from one quarter to the next. Okay. The other thing I need to cover, and this is all in the how-to document. I went through some of these unique cases. If you have turnover, typically one of the other issues is, say for example, Pittsburgh started an average field position. They had a drive that went 3, but Pittsburgh threw an interception, and the Indianapolis Colts intercepted that and returned it back for a touchdown. Or if there was like a fumble on a kickoff or a punt, there's a unique way to handle both of those, because not only do you need to give credit to the team for the drive itself, but you also need to add a line to give credit to the team who scored. And so, for example, Pittsburgh throws an interception, And so I'll put, usually I just put turnover in this box, but the next box down, I need to give credit to Indianapolis for the returned touch. We'll do this, whatever you want to say in here. We'll say returned for touchdown, whatever. I obviously can't put the score in here because they would credit the Steelers with the touchdown. So the next line down, I'm going to put 2021 Indianapolis. I'm not going to put in a field position, and I'm not going to put in ticks because I don't want the time to tick down. But what I will do is say returned. I apologize for the keyboard tapping. It sounds pretty loud. Returned for touchdown. And then in here, I'm going to put this, the score, PAT good, so that Indianapolis will get credit for scoring that touchdown. So you see any kind of turnover that resulted in a score, whether this be, a fumble on a kickoff or a fumble on a punt that was returned for a touchdown, those cases you would put in who started the drive on one line and then who scored on the next line without using the field position or the ticks. So that pretty much covers all of the things that I wanted to cover for this video. One of the important things to remember is that besides this stuff that's automated, you can put whatever you want to in these drive summaries. There are a lot of unique situations in which you would want to track stats and all that kind of stuff. So, you might have your own way of documenting all this. Again, the score is important. Basically, the most important part of this drive summary is used for scoring and timing. And so, as long as you understand that the box score and the clock pulls from the drive summary section, you can kind of get creative on how you input all this data. So, the way I do it is not the way everybody else would do it. That's one of the good flexibilities of this drive summary, is that you can basically, within the confines of all the formulas and stuff, you can do whatever you want to with it. So that pretty much covers the Google Scoresheet. Really quickly though, I do want to show you how the college team SRS and stars work. I'm basically just going to leave all this alone, but if I put in, let's say for example, this team, I'm going against my rule for this spreadsheet by editing it, but just for the purposes of this video, if you put in whatever their SRS is, you'll notice that it automatically calculates that difference and drops in the star symbol that shows in the college rule book. So if I put 20 in this, it'll automatically calculate that star, which is kind of a cool part of the spreadsheet, the Google Sheet. So you can put in negative values because that's super important, obviously. And it will automatically calculate the star values. So I think that's pretty much it, everybody. Again, thank you to Al for allowing me to share this Google Sheet, and then to Jim for his testing. If anybody has any questions, you can get me in the Facebook page. I joined the Facebook group. I'm in the Facebook group so that people can ask questions with regards to this Google Sheet. You can do whatever you want to with this Google Sheet. I don't care if you edit it and make it your own, but I do ask that if you re-share the sheet with any of your own personal whatever, just at least drop a line in there that it was loosely based off this Google Sheet. I would appreciate that. But honestly, my feelings aren't going to get hurt if you don't. So that is pretty much it for this video. So I appreciate everybody's time. I hope you enjoy the Google Sheet. And if you have any questions, you can connect with me on the Facebook group. Yeah, happy gaming.